मेरा कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है।
You have a question?
No.
Okay. So energy and state changes. ठीक है. अच्छा, before we start with energy and state changes, इसमें you guys need to know something. ठीक है. You guys need to be aware about certain terms. ठीक है. कुछ terminologies हैं जो पता होनी चाहिए. Some concepts. So before we go over the energy and state changes, you guys should have a concept about kinetic energy. What do you understand by kinetic energy? Maham, do you have any idea what is kinetic energy?
It's the energy which helps you move.
Okay, okay, close. How about Rafi?
Kinetic energy.
Ji.
Kinetic energy is like the energy of a moving object, like which is in motion.
Exactly, exactly. So, Rafi and Maham, both of you are right. Kinetic energy is basically the energy that is possessed by moving objects. Okay? Moving objects can be particles. If you're moving in your room, if you're running, for example, if you're running a marathon, so you possess kinetic energy, right? If you're walking in your room, you possess kinetic energy. Okay? Anything that moves, a moving car, a moving plane, a rocket, uh, which is rushing through the sky, that they all possess kinetic energy. And as I stated earlier, that all particles in matter, in any state will have some kinetic energy. Okay, they will always have some kinetic energy. Whether they are solids, whether they are liquids or they're gases, they will always have kinetic energy. But the kinetic energy differs between different states. So just to test your concept so far, Rafi, नहीं बल्कि Azlan, which state of matter do you think will have the lowest kinetic energy?
Solids.
Exactly, the solid, and the highest in the gases, right? And intermediate वाला फिर liquid हो जाएगा. So yeah, now you guys know what is kinetic energy. अच्छा, अब kinetic energy is done. ठीक है, एक तो kinetic energy हो गया. दूसरा, you guys should know about what is endothermic. What is an endothermic change? Okay, what is an endothermic change? Endothermic, sorry. And what is an exothermic change? Okay, you guys have any idea what is endothermic and exothermic?
I think I do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead, please tell everyone.
Is exothermic something which releases the heat or temperature? And endothermic
Exactly.
absorbs the its
Very
surroundings
good.
temperature.
Very
Yeah.
good. Very good. Excellent. Excellent. So an endothermic change is any change which you know which in which heat is gained. Okay, in which heat is gained is known as an endothermic change. Whereas any change that in which heat is released, okay, is known as exothermic. So an easy way to remember this is that endo means inside and thermic means heat. So heat inside, that means heat is gained. And exo means out and thermic means heat. So that means heat is let out in this change. So say yeah, you guys have an idea about an endothermic and exothermic. Now, uh, now we'll go over the state changes. Okay. So energy and state changes. So we studied that there are three states of matter: solids, liquids, and gases. Uh, you guys should know that the matter can also change its state. Okay, so for example, solids can change their state and go into liquids, and then liquids can transform into gases. Gases can transform into liquids, and liquids can transform into solids back again. Even solids can directly transform into gases. Gases can directly transform into solids as well, right? So this change in state This change in state of matter is known as a state change. ठीक है? अच्छा, अब for example, heating, you should know that heating and cooling. ठीक है? अब heating and cooling है. So heating जो है, it will increase the particle energy, and cooling down decreases the particle energy. This particle energy कौन सी energy है ये? This is the kinetic energy. सही है? ये kinetic energy की बात हो रही है इधर. So whenever you heat anything, whenever you heat matter, or whenever you uh add energy to that state, the kinetic energy of the particle will increase. And whenever you take away the energies, obviously kinetic energy of the particles will decrease, means the particle will start moving slower. So these are the different changes in state. So if you, for example, if you start from solids, okay, so when a solid turns into liquid, that's called melting. Pretty simple. When liquid turns into a gas, that's called boiling. And when a gas, sorry, when you go in reverse gear, so for example, if a gas turns into a liquid, that's called condensation. And then when a liquid turns into a solid, so that's called freezing. And for example, when a liquid turns to a gas, that's called evaporation. Okay? But I'll go over the difference between boiling and evaporation is the or sublimation जो है, it's the direct change from a solid to a gas. So let's go over them in detail. So pretty simple, melting जो होता है, it's change from a solid to a liquid. ठीक है? And that's an endothermic process. यानी कि you have to add heat to the solid state to increase the kinetic energy of those particles. So they start vibrating faster, and they are drawn apart, and they turn into a liquid. सही है? So for example, just the basic concept, you have this container, okay, and it contains, ice cubes, okay, it contains many ice cubes. So let's draw some ice cubes here. It has ice cubes, right? अब बहुत अजीब से ice cubes बन रहे हैं थोड़े से, so bear with me. इतना के नहीं होता ice cubes normally मैंने भी देखे. But okay, so you have ice cubes. So ice is what? Ice is solid, right? So if you'll heat it up, if you'll heat up this container, right? For example, if you put this on a stove. Okay, so let's pretend this is fire. And if you put it on a stove, so this ice will start to melt, right? So what's really happening on this atomic scale? Let's just magnify what is happening inside this little ice cube. So in this little ice cube, you have like water molecules which were really tightly packed together. Okay, इतने बड़े molecules नहीं होते. They are really tiny. But इस ice cube में the molecules were really tightly packed together. But when you applied heat, so basically you're adding energy to the system, right? You're adding energy. You're adding energy. So when you're adding energy in the form of heat, so this heat energy is being converted into the kinetic energy of this molecule, of these molecules. So what will happen is these molecules will start to vibrate very fast. Okay? And will start to vibrate at very high speed, like back and forth, they'll vibrate. And what will happen is, you know, up solids method, they were very close together, right? But when they start to move very fast, so what will happen is that this will weaken the intermolecular forces between these molecules. Okay? इनके बीच में जो attractive forces थी ना, they will start to weaken because they're moving so fast. So what will happen is there will be a progressive weakening of the intermolecular forces, and as the intermolecular forces weaken, what will happen? These molecules will move apart. Okay, they'll start to move apart. And slowly and steadily, they'll be drawn apart, and the ice will change into liquid water. So that's what happens during melting, which is an endothermic change. Why is it an endothermic change? Because obviously we're adding heat energy. So this is a process that is in which energy is or heat is being gained, right? Uh, सिमिलरली बॉइलिंग में भी होता है, बॉइलिंग में लिक्विड जो होता है टर्न्स इनटू गैस, सिमिलर प्रोसेस होता है व्हेन यू ऐड मोर हीट टू अ लिक्विड, सो the molecules will start vibrating even faster, intermolecular forces will weaken, and this will result in uh, the molecules being drawn farther apart, and this will lead to boiling and eventually evaporation. So melting and boiling are endothermic processes. Let's talk about freezing and condensing. What happens in freezing is that a liquid, when it turns into a solid, that's called freezing, and it's an exothermic process. So what happens is that, for example, if you put a glass of water, if you put this glass of water, let's draw a glass of water. So if there's a glass of water and you put this glass of water in the freezer compartment of your refrigerator, so what will happen is that on this glass of water contains like molecules which were farther apart from each other, right? But the freezer is taking away the heat, is taking away the heat from this glass of water. So what will happen is the molecules will start moving slower. They will lose kinetic energy. So इस केस में हो क्या रहा है, एनर्जी कन्वर्जन कैसे हो रही है? इस केस में ये हो रहा है कि the kinetic energy of the molecule is being converted into the heat energy back again, heat energy. उसमें क्या हो रहा था, जो पिछला वाला था, इसमें ये हो रहा था कि सॉलिड से जब लिक्विड में जा रहे थे, so you were adding heat, so heat was being converted into kinetic energy of these molecules. लेकिन जब हम freeze करने लगे ना, तो ये kinetic energy is being converted into heat, so the heat is being let out, and that's why the temperature of this glass of water will decrease until it reaches below zero, where freezing will start to occur. Okay, so what will happen is this glass of liquid water will solidify and it will turn into ice. Right now, do I need to explain why this is an exothermic process? I think this is pretty straightforward. सबको समझ आ गए?
जी, क्लास एंड होने वाली है 3 मिनट में।
हाँ हाँ, वो मैं एक नया लिंक शेयर करता हूँ, लेकिन ये समझ आ गया?
जी
राइट, सही है।
Yes.
ओके ओके, आई जस्ट शेयर अनदर लिंक, सो आप लोग जल्दी से ज्वाइन कर लेना, ठीक है? आई एम जस्ट एंडिंग दिस मीटिंग।